The Grammy goes to Cowboy Carter.
Oh my god, you've got to be kidding me.
How the fuck didn't Hit Me Hard and Soft win Album of the Year?
Mom, the haters are discrediting Beyonce again.
You know you that bitch when you cause all this conversation. Always stay gracious, best revenge is your paper.
Beyonce has rightfully won the 2025 Grammy Award for Album of the Year for her masterpiece of a genre-bending and blending behemoth of a project, Cowboy Carter. An album that spans the history of country music through the lens of Black contribution and reclamation. She collaborates with country greats like Willie Nelson, Dolly Parton, Miley Cyrus, Shabuzi, and many more. If you are a music lover, then you know that this is Beyonce's first win in this category after what most would call straight-up snubs. There are many stands of different artists claiming that the show was rigged and that other artists were more deserving of the title, and I'm here to shed a little bit of light as to why Cowboy Carter was always going to be Album of the Year. If this is your first time seeing me, hello, my name is Horace Gold. Welcome to my channel, Hardly Qualified. This is the first video essay I've ever done, and I'm very excited about it, so you have to subscribe. Okay, do it. Did you do it? Do it. Also, if you see me looking down at my computer, don't look at me at all, okay? It's my first one. Stop, okay? Stop. Look away. Clean your house. Okay, here we go. Beyonce has been a genre-defining artist since the literal beginning. Her first album, Dangerously in Love, spans a multitude of genres, from R&B to funk, reggae with Arabic scales, gospel riffs, and pop catchiness thrown together for a stunning debut. Her second album, B-Day, definitely leans more into funk on tracks like Deja Vu and Freakum Dress, while her third album, I Am Sasha Fierce, is the most objectively straight up pop album of the lot, while highlighting her unique rap singing style and affinity for operatic spurts. 4 is her last conventional album cycle and moves into a 90s R&B dominated North Star, and is honestly the most genre limited of an album she's ever produced. The self-titled album was Beyonce's first visual album and introduced us into what is now a Beyonce staple of songs blending into each other for an immersive sonic experience, an experience that would be replicated on her next album, Lemonade, where we would see her first foray into traditional country music with Daddy Lessons, a song later performed at the CMAs with the Chicks in 2016.
With his gun, with his head held high, he told me not to cry. Oh, my daddy said you. Oh, my daddy said you.
A story that was admittedly unpleasant, and that is actually where Cowboy Carter began. That was the genesis of it all, but we will get to that in just a little bit. After Lemonade, Renaissance was announced as an Act 1, another genre and soundscape blend, predominantly rooted in house music as a love letter to the Black queer community. We saw Beyonce go on a victory lap of her career and truly show us that her career is no longer about following or even setting trends in the music industry, but about leaving a legacy that knows its history, and history we get into on Cowboy Carter. Beyonce wrote before the release of the album of an incident where she felt excluded by country music, and literally everyone knew she was shading the CMAs for the way they treated her during the 2016 performance, which then became exacerbated when the award show refused to acknowledge Cowboy Carter as a country album and gave it 0 nominations. Now, there are many people who see the CMA's decision to not reward Cowboy Carter as a reason to be upset that the Grammys gave Cowboy Carter Country Album of the Year, but to me that logic is like a job not hiring you for not having work experience. That's actually the root of the entire issue, baby. She made the album because the CMAs were exclusionary. So being excluded, again, doesn't disprove the validity of the album, but rather highlights the issues with the CMAs. I say all that to say that Beyonce is a creative genius who has earned the right to do whatever the fuck she wants and tell whatever stories she wants to. Country is a vast umbrella of a genre, and as a country music fan myself, a lot of my favorite artists exist beyond the spectrum of a stereotypical country artist while receiving the love of country music. So what is the difference, mama? To say that country music sounds one way is honestly disrespectful to the trendsetters of the genre, whether that be artists like Chris Stapleton, who pull heavily from R&B and blues as inspiration, or Maren Morris, who leaned into pop and R&B inspiration on all of her albums while earning a bona fide pop hit with The Middle, or Casey Musgraves, who sings about her experiences with drugs while singing through Daft Punk-inspired vocoders on Oh What a World from Golden Hour, a genre-blending country album that won Album of the Year at the Grammys. That sounds familiar, right? Country music is versatile, and so is Beyonce. But there is one through line throughout all of Beyonce's artistry. Do you want to guess what it is? She's always been country. So it's funny to me that Beyonce is deemed not country enough for American country music, but non-American artists like Keith Urban and Shania Twain are country royalty.
Just leave me alone.
And Taylor Swift, who grew up an hour and a half away from Philadelphia, has 12 CMAs. Beyonce is so openly rooted in Texas culture, and on American Requiem, the opening track of Cowboy Carter, she laments being called too country and now being not country enough. It's like an insult that seems to only be applied to Black women. Again, so curious. Okay, whatever. Beyonce also tapped this style of artists to collaborate on her album. Artists that are so confidently country that even if they stray from the stereotypical mold of what it means to be a country artist, they're still welcome. Like Miley Cyrus, who hasn't ever really released a country song, yet was invited to sing The Climb at the 2009 CMAs, while Shabuzi, a black country artist from the South whose song, a bar song Tipsy, spent 27 weeks at the #1 spot on radio, was completely shut out from the CMAs for his only 2 nominations that he received. Like, there's a clear bias as to who is and is not allowed to identify as a country artist. Country as a genre is about as subjective as the term country itself. Like, what is country? Is it a location? Is it a mindset? Is it a religion? Is it a race? I cannot answer that as a private schooled Californian, but as someone who loves visiting the South, I can tell you from my experience, it's all of that and none of that at the exact same time. Country is a spirit, it's a knowing, it's a peace of mind. So to see it quantified so inconsistently is a bit frustrating, because who is the arbiter of country, and why does it feel so similar to Jim Crow? Why are white people comfortable telling black people which aspects of their culture they can or cannot claim? And Cowboy Carter is inherently an album about race, so I don't want to hear anyone in the comments being like, why are you making it about race? Shabuzi being ignored by the country music industry is about race. Beyonce being disrespected by the CMAs is about race. Everything in America is about race. Let's not be daft by it. Cowboy Carter is a country album. It's just not a white country album. It sounds like steel guitar songs my brother played for me while he lived in Tennessee. It sounds like summer nights in Austin, Texas. It sounds like the bluegrass sessions that I attended after church. Speaking of church, a lot of the roots of country music are gospel church hymns popularized in black southern churches, with songs like Wade in the Water and Swing Less Swing Chariot being slave hymns. With the enslavement of black people happening predominantly in the South, aka the country, aka the black church inherently produces country music. Country music exists in a broader spectrum than that of a poppy-filled Taylor Swift singing about the same high school boy that makes her cry on her guitar for 20 years. There's undeniable history here, okay? The transatlantic slave trade is associated with country music, Christianity, and black artists reclaiming a genre that was partially derived and completely commodified from our collective suffering. And also, country artists defy country expectations constantly. I mentioned Casey Musgraves and Maren Morris earlier, but diving deeper into those two, because I know that those are country artists whose fan bases make me feel safe. I went to Casey's Deeper Well tour and loved it, and Maren Morris recently followed me on TikTok, so you should too, bitch. Hello. Casey has cemented herself as something of an alt darling of the country music industry, with atypical depictions of normal on Follow Your Arrow from her debut album Same Trailer Different Park, or her love for the LGBTQ community on Rainbow from the aforementioned Album of the Year winner Golden Hour. She explores genres like indie pop through collaborative singles like Drive Away by the Brummies. Hope I'm saying that right. Brummies or Broomies, I do not know, but I like that song. Anyways, Maren Morris questions her relationship with God and religion on the smash hit My Church, while diving into full-blown R&B on RSVP from the album Girl. A chorus with chop drums similar to Spaghetti from Beyonce's Cowboy Carter. How interesting that Maren still got nominated for Album of the Year at the CMAs with a song that has trap drums on it. Interesting. Also, do not take that as a diss on Maren. She is truly one of my favorite artists of all time. I will have to Helen Back played at my wedding. She's also voiced her issues with country music and honestly retired from the genre in 2023. And look, I'm gonna go there. We're gonna talk about Taylor Swift and you're gonna be okay. The world will turn and cheese will melt. Taylor Swift is not from the South. She's not from a part of Pennsylvania that can justifiably use a country accent. She moved to Nashville and adopted a now cringy Southern accent in her songs to build a career in country music, and then ditched y'all hoes and became the pop star she always wanted to be. In short terms, Taylor Swift culturally appropriated Southerners, and y'all let her get away with that.
It's just so exciting because last year I came and was kind of incognito as a writer. Nobody knew who I was.
Okay. I actually like some of Taylor Swift's songs. A Swiftie, I am swiftly not, but I can acknowledge objectively good songwriting, which is why Fearless and 1989 are Taylor's best albums, argue with the wall. But if country is a costume that can be adorned and hung up, then why is it that Beyonce, who is a multi-generational Southerner, isn't country when she does it, but Taylor, who has no ties to the South, is country, was country, can be country whenever she wants to be country again? And look, my issue is not with Taylor and her artistic decisions, because I do not care, truthfully. My issue is the claustrophobic levels of monitoring that black artists receive for far less egregious creative decisions. I think a lot of the hate is extremely inconsistent, and it's masquerading obvious biases as a preservation of a culture that black people are completely entitled to and owed an equitable space in. And so I ask again, What is country and who gets to define it? Who is the arbiter of this non-quantifiable genre slash lifestyle slash ecosystem? Like, as someone who has listened to country music for as long as I can remember, some of the best moments in country music have been cross-cultural slash cross-genre exchanges, like Dolly Parton writing Whitney Houston's smash hit I Will Always Love You, or Alabama covering NSYNC's God Must Have Spent a Little More Time on You, Nelly and Tim McGraw with the 2000s banger Over and Over Again, or hello, Beyonce singing with the redacted chicks at the fucking CNAs. There's a seemingly strong desire for country music to be a self-sustaining ecosystem, which would be fine if the indigeneity of the genre didn't entitle others to that ecosystem. That's like creating half of a pie recipe with someone and then telling millions of people that you made it up on your own. Like, Martha Stewart, you're gonna run me my shit right now. Ahora, chica, gracias mucho. This is our genre too. You don't get to define something that you didn't create in a vacuum. Country music has never sounded one way. It has always been a mixture of blues, R&B, gospel, bluegrass, Americana, and pop music, and there are artists who lean heavily into each of those subgenres but still find a home in country music. Why is that artistic expansion not made available to black country artists? Or better yet, why doesn't country music want black artists? It's no longer subjective whether or not the landscape of the industry is or is not available to black artists. It is significantly easier for white artists to break in country than black artists. It's easier for non-American white country artists to break than black Southerners. That's really my fucking issue. Beyonce made a country album, not a white country album, but an album that sounds like a black country person made it. To say that because there are trap drums and 808s on a country album means it's not country, that infers that country music artists are all one-dimensional and can have no creative experimentation or exploration. I think you all say your artist short with that frame of mind, and I also don't think that it's entirely consistent. There are so many artists that have a diverse production over their albums. Do y'all remember when Taylor Swift had a dubstep drop on her last country album, or that Morgan Wallen featured on a Moneybagg Yo song? That's like saying that Tana Riddell is not a country artist because she has trap drums on Buckle Bunny, and Billie Eilish is a country artist because she used acoustic guitars on Your Power. It seems like country music is afraid of artistic expansion because the more colored it becomes, the less theirs it is. And to that I say, it was never yours to begin with. You stole it. And some of us want it back. In closing, I want to talk about preference versus objectivity. I think there are a lot of people who are afraid that their favorite album did not win AOTY, and to that I say, neither did mine. I love Cowboy Carter, but as far as albums that have been in my rotation, Brat, Short and Sweet, and Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess would have won the gay Grammys hosted and voted on by me. That's the difference between preference and objectivity. My favorite artist of all time is Amy Winehouse. I know the trivia. I wept when she passed away. I have a deeply, deeply parasocial relationship with her. She has impacted the fabric of my life. Like, she's the most influential person in my life. She's my favorite artist. My favorite singers of all time are Mariah Carey and Stevie Wonder. I think that they were both literally anointed from God. Like, oh my God, bitch. Like, they're just like on another level. Mariah Carey and Stevie Wonder are both objectively better singers than Amy Winehouse. As far as the technical proficiency of the craft of singing goes, they both have better ranges, riffs, vocal agility, vocal strength that outshine Amy's technical abilities. I prefer Amy's artistry, but that preference does not negate the objectivity of Mariah or Stevie's talent. The same goes for Cowboy Carter. My personal preference as a gay man who lives in Los Angeles is Brat. Charlie and I are similar ages. I've been a fan of her since her first album. Like, Charlie XCX is just an artist who makes music that looks the most like my life. Objectively, I know that Cowboy Carter is a masterpiece of depth and weight that tells a story about the history of black people's involvement in country music. Beyonce is a creative mastermind who has never made a bad album. She's an excellent storyteller and is becoming something of a musical historian at this point in her career. She made the better album. Is it the album that I prefer to listen to when I'm in the gym getting hot and shredded? No, mama, that's Renaissance, actually. But as far as what the category of the awards competition requires, Cowboy Carter is a triumphant soundscape that has no competition. It is objectively album of the year, even if I prefer to listen to something more regularly. And this is the issue with stan culture versus music lovers. I feel like stan culture has made the Grammys almost like a personality contest, where if your personal album doesn't win Best of the Year, you are seen as less than, when in reality, they don't know us, bitch. You are allowed to prefer to listen to an album without convincing yourself that another album is bad, or in this case, not country. Beyonce may not be your preference in country music, but she's a woman who has been country. Therefore, everything she does is country, whether that fits into the stereotypical definition of it or not.